Good afternoon or good morning, everyone. So thank you all for joining this webinar organized by Dia Portriga. During last 9 months, we've been working on this tool called Nexus Face. The idea is that we want to improve Siebel UX. We want to do it faster in most cost-efficient way. And now with this Nexus Face, we entered public preview phase, and we invite some companies to try it out as well. All this information will follow. I will start with one of my favorite analyst metrics, which still have Siebel CRM on the slot. So it's coming from Nucleus Research. And basically, what they say is that in terms of functionality, Siebel CRM is really good. But when it comes to usability, it lags behind the competitors like Salesforce or Dynamics or Oracle CX Cloud. Again, if you read these reports in the further details, they also pay attention to all the efforts Siebel team at Oracle is doing to improve development experience, all the Docker stuff they do, CI/CD, web tools, better scripting, all is great. But still, it doesn't allow Siebel rise to the leader quadrant where we all wanted to see as Siebel customers. Our idea is that if we fix Siebel UX, all the customers are getting more than powerful CRM platform, which is very flexible and extendable, has integration capabilities, customization capabilities. Importantly, that many customers invested many years and a lot of money into the platform. Then how do we make better return from these investments through the UX? With many of you, we got connected last year in February when we launched this innovation, which again now we call Nexus Bridge. At that moment, it was called Nexus 19. We're kind of very happy that we did some rebranding because a letter with 5 words ending at 19 has totally different associations now. And the idea was that we wanted to bring modern web development to Siebel Open UI. So, and if previously we had this option of low code way when we just customize Siebel UI, and based on this configuration, we get automatically Siebel list applet, form applets, as we know them, without additional efforts. Then, of course, like everything with Oracle, it's extendable and customizable with Oracle Siebel CRM. When Oracle launched Open UI in 2012, they also had this capability to build custom physical render or UI layer with the jQuery, which was sort of leading library at that time. Thanks to our engineers, mainly Oleg, who was kind of working quite hard on the JavaScript library called Nexus Bridge. So we were able to bring also modern web frameworks into Siebel, or it was definitely possible before, but we made it much easier. Now there is this open source project Nexus Bridge available on the GitHub where you can go and download it without any charges, without any registrations. And we have some of the following and even contributors there outside of Dia Portriga. We saw some challenges with this approach when we would build a custom physical render using React or Angular or Vue.js. It still would require a lot of coding. That's why we continued our innovations, and today we present you this Nexus Face product, which basically is a tool for you to build OpenUI physical rendering in the low-code way or drag-and-drop manner, if you will. Also, when we look at OpenUI, especially mid-sized customers, they have this OpenUI dilemma. So on one hand, with no coding, with out of the box, you get the standard UI, which is easy to implement, easy to maintain. You don't have to do anything. Again, the problem is that the design hasn't been changing for the last 25 years. So we still have all these list applets, form applets. If you go to Siebel Hub, where Alex Hansal posted some of the screenshots of Siebel from back then, you kind of still recognize these UI patterns, which didn't really change much. But also we see many customers trying to do something about the design, modernizing it, because in addition to the design, we do have this unsatisfied and often inefficient users, which complain about complexity of the Siebel, amount of time it takes them to complete some of their routine tasks. And of course, we see the different great example of Siebel UI transformations. And the latest one was from GMC, which shared their story on a Siebel Cub last month. But again, if you do that, you can get this modern UI, you can get very productive and engaged users, but the downside of it, that it does require heavy coding, and it's pretty hard to implement and maintain. If you see on this slide, basically the 2 empty places, so we're not going for this one, we're going for this quadrant. And basically this is where we wanna position Nexus Face. So what we want to do is that with Nexus Face, you can generate modern UI with a great UX if you do proper research and UI design, of course, which at the same time is easy to implement and maintain and requires very little coding as possible. When we were talking to different customers about improving Siebel UI with the help of the Nexus Bridge and modern frameworks and different UI component libraries and design system, we kind of saw several objectives and those that we are trying to fix with this Nexus Face. So first, customers would complain that, yeah, I mean, your demos are looking good. I'm happy that these larger companies are able to invest a hell lot of money into the UI improvement, but it's still, very heavy investment for us. So, and basically, compared to this custom code scenario, either with jQuery or with modern frameworks, we want to make it so that to configure Siebel UI with Nexus Face takes much less time, so that you get faster time to market, and also it doesn't cost that much as a customized UI. And another concern that we had, and again, we had, I think, around 150 requests to Siebel Nexus Bridge repository from different customers. For many of them, they looked at it, they saw that they do need to have, very advanced web development knowledge. For some of the customers and integrators, it's not really a problem. So they have the skills on board. But again, for the majority of the team, it is so that we have current Siebel team, and this gap that they need to close in terms of the skills, it's pretty big. If you are a Siebel developer, if it's not that easy to start building stuff in React or Angular or Vue.js, especially if you do kind of more complex configurations, if you do more complex logic of the application with the state management and routing and everything. So it does require special knowledge. And we wanted to be so with Nexus Face that this skill gap is much lower. So there is this very low entry barrier to enter this web development. Of course, with Nexus Face, you do need to know, CSS. You do need to understand basic of JavaScript. But again, you don't need to have this knowledge on the level that you are, building custom applications running within the Siebel on your own. And finally, again, this is from many customers, and I think Box Fusion has this story, and ITFB, I think also they have this story that we have an end customer, and also us, we have the same story. We talk to the client, we come to understanding that we can improve Siebel UX, and we as the integrator have right skills to do that. But then customer starts wondering, how are we going to maintain the solution when this specialist web development integrator have done its work and leaves the project? How my current team is going to take the solution forward? And of course, there are different scenarios to that. So you can hire web developers into your team and try to make them motivated to work with Siebel UI and not in the pure web development. But also, either you are kind of having this additional maintenance contract with the integrator who done the work for you. We want to kind of solve this issue as well, so that it is simpler to maintain because the code base is very little. And also coming back to the second point, that the team which is maintaining the solution, shouldn't be professional web developer. So they need to understand, basic web development, but not that much. Maybe if I kind of finish with the positioning of Nexus Face, I will switch to a little demonstration. We have a chat going on, so if you have some questions, please use it. And also, we agreed that Artyom will be, answering these questions as well. And Artyom is one of the leading engineers working on the Nexus Face. Let's see what we have been able to achieve so far. Again, I log into Siebel UI, as we know it, a beautiful homepage out of the box. Then at one of the particular Siebel screens, we have this Nexus Face application running. And it works in sort of developer mode or design mode, if you will. Here we can build the UI using the building blocks we will explain to you a bit later. But at the same time, we work against a live Siebel view. If I just show you the kind of end results of this little sample application we have built. Some of you saw this sort of midnight UI we have been demonstrating to you either a year ago on the Nexus Bridge webinars, on some Siebel events. We have been showing it as well as a kind of a showcase. Currently, we have built pretty much the same functionality, but using this Nexus Face. The idea is that on the left, I have count list, which I can go through. Then for this particular account, we have form with account details. We have some of the opportunities here, some of the contacts. I can, as usually, filter this activities timeline. As you can see that they are pretty old. I can be looking at the details or expanding the cards, writing the notes, creating new activities, pretty much like we used to show with this custom build UI. And if I click on the particular opportunity or contact, then this right-hand side of the screen is populated with particular record details. These are like very basic ones. I can hide this drawer and bring it back if I want to, just to kind of save some space. And again, we're working within Siebel UI using Nexus Bridge to access presentation models of particular applets. And as we used to, so if I am updating some of the fields and others being updated as well, probability field updated. If I change the stage here, then sales cycle is moving and win ratio and things like that. If I move in from the preview mode and quickly cover the building blocks of this application. So to build the application, we have this project. The view itself, the UI consists of several pages and several fragments. So this is like a count 300-degree view page. And if I want to know like where this is coming from, okay, this is kind of a fragment called opportunity detail. And then I have basically the design of this little page section or fragment here. And if again, I follow the logic, I see a particular component that we added to the UI and see all its configuration, both styling, but also all the mapping to the Siebel data. So the label comes from opportunities, from primary revenue close date, and we take label property from there. The value comes from the same field, and we use a method get field value of presentation model or Nexus Bridge. Here we have different component library, which we kind of drag into the UI. Now we are working on the UI tokens or design system. Then we have this API Explorer. Basically, all the Siebel views I have in my application, they are available to me. Every presentation model of applet, we kind of give it an entity name, and then further, when we configure particular components, we address it by this entity. And then we can have also some mock files, and later during the autumn, we will add REST services capability and also GraphQL as a backend set. And maybe I'll have some luck with this design system now. Here it comes. So basically, I have ability to define the colors in my application following your internal client brand book. I can add fonts, I can define typography, I can add custom CSS. There's some basic configuration of different components as well. But this is something we kind of keep improving on. And with that, I would like to give a stage, okay, should I call stage, to Natalia, who is our first Nexus Face user. So Natalia is working with Siebel for the last 7 years. So she started at Stella 2 as a test engineer. Then she moved to the business analyst phase, so she never were a developer. And she also worked with Ouch UI of Tele2, which was like showcased in quite a few places on different Siebel events around the world. And basically, Natalia started to work with Nexus like 2 months ago. So she designed the first user manual. She has to figure out like how this tool works and what are the different methods. She will be showing you how we configure 3 different scenarios. And we want her to do that and not, for example, Artyom or engineers, because she kind of better represents the target user we would like to address with this tool.
I'm starting sharing. Hope that you can see my screen. Let's create several scenarios. So first scenario, what I would like to show you, we will create a Kanban board page, which will present all available opportunities for particular client. To do it, so first we will create a button, which will lead us to Kanban board page. So first time button will be available on opportunities list. So first I'm selecting opportunities list and navigating to this fragment. And I would like to add button on top right corner. So I will extend this row with 1 more column. So picking from component library container component, converting it to column. And using drag and drop, we'll pass the button component into my column. And button is available. Now only what is needed, a little bit adjust the button. I will change the label to Kanban board. I will change the color to dark, so it will fit overall UI. We will remove caps and a little bit will adjust the font weight so it will look light. Okay, the button is ready. And now we need to create a page with our Kanban board. And to do this, I will duplicate opportunity list fragment and we'll convert it into page. We'll give correct name. Currently, my Kanban board page contains same information what I have in opportunities list, but we will return to it later and we will adjust it. But now let's go back to opportunity list And now we need to activate our button Kanban board, so it will navigate us to Kanban board page. So I'm selecting button and opening data binding section and selecting event click. And I would like to navigate to page Kanban board. So I'm selecting page and method go to page. Save. Now even we can test how it works. So I'm clicking on button and you can see I'm on page Kanban board. Now we can adjust our Kanban board page. So I will remove what is not needed. I will change the title of page to Kanban board. I don't need this column with total number of records, so I will removing it. I would like to keep button, same button, but now the button should have name account 360. Button should navigate me to page account 360 view. So again, opening data binding section, selecting click event and selecting page where I want to go. Now let's add the Kanban board to our page, as currently we see only like cards from opportunity list. So first I will add container where I will place my Kanban board. So from component library, I will select Kanban component and will drag and drop into my new container. Currently it is empty as I haven't mapped any data into my Kanban. So I'm selecting Kanban component and opening data binding section. And for items, I would like to retrieve all opportunity items what I have. So I'm selecting get items method. For property stage names, I would like to use value cell stage, all available options. So with the stage names, it means like this Kanban board headers, what will be displayed. Clicking save. And as well, I would like to add events that when I will drag opportunity card from one stage to another stage, the value of cell cycle will be changed. And for this, I will add some code to update the value. Okay, save. And now still nothing is shown. I see only like drop zones. I would like for cards reuse, fully reuse same UI what we saw in opportunity list and not do it from scratch. So what I will do, I will pick list item component and will drop into drop zone. Now we need to style a little bit our Kanban, as currently we don't see the stage names because the text is dark and dark on dark is impossible to see. So let's open configuration section. Let's change some classes. So I will apply some white color for my headers and weight will be light. Yeah, now we can see. I will hide. I will remove what is not needed anymore. And basically the Kanban is ready. And now we can test. I will, for example, drag new opportunity into like stage prospect. You can see that value was changed and we can validate was it changed on other screen. So I will navigate to page account 360 and you can see that new opportunity currently has stage prospect and we can go back. So it is still in stage prospect. And we can do, for example, for this one thing. So it is how to do Kanban board using Nexus Face. What next? So I would like to extend opportunity details with one more column, and I would like to display primary revenue win probability with a knob element. And to do this, so first I'm selecting opportunity details fragment and navigating to it. Now I will find the place where I would like to add my new element. So I will extend this row with new column. So opening component library and using drag and drop, adding container and converting container to the column. And now again, we'll find the knob component and simply drag and drop into UI. We'll adjust some alignment. And currently you can see that this knob element do not represent any information as I haven't mapped this with any data. So let's select the knob component and open data binding section and add some value. So I'm picking property value. I will take value from entity opportunity, from field primary revenue win probability. And for this, I'm selecting method get field value. And as well, I would like that it should be possible to change value via knob element and it should be saved. So for this, I will add event input and you can see that opportunity entity stays selected. My field primary revenue win probability as well stays selected and only what is needed to pick it is the method. So I'm selecting method set field value, save. Now it's available and working. And now let's test how it will look. So I have 10, let's change to 80 and let's navigate to another opportunity and going back. So still 80. And even if I will change to negotiation, it is like changing as well.
Okay, these are like two use cases we practiced with Natalia in our previous presentation, both to some clients and also to Oracle. The final piece will be about some kind of similar functionality which Salesforce is bringing now, which is called the dynamic forms and dynamic actions. So basically the idea is that usually, as we all know, if we have opportunity forms and list applets or service requests, which could be very complex components, the UI is really busy and crowded because we want to show all this different information, which is valuable in different phases. So basically what we will show to you now, how we can sort of simplify UI and make it cleaner and automatically kind of show and hide some of the sections and also maybe some of the actions as well. Similar to what Salesforce is bringing in now in the summer release. Okay, Natalia, go ahead.
Okay. So let's make our opportunity details a little bit lighter. So, and I would like to make that loss details section will be presented only when my opportunity is in stage lost, one details when it is in stage one orders, and progress section should be available when I have all other stages like prospect, capture, negotiation, and contract signing, and details column should always be presented. So first, let's again select opportunity details fragment and navigate it, and let's start with lost details column. So I'm selecting it, and for this I'm opening data binding section, and I will apply directive wave, and I will add some code when my column loss details should be available. So my column loss details will be available only when cell stage equal to lost, and we can check. Okay, my current cell cycle equal to capture. I don't see any like lost, and if I will change, so you can see that I see the lost column. Let's do same for one details column. Again, selecting the column, opening data binding section, selecting wave directive, navigating to code section, and I will a little bit adjust the condition, save, and let's test again. Okay, I see one details when there is one orders, and if we will open, for example, prospect, then nothing is shown. And as I told before, the progress section should be presented only when we have like prospect, capture, negotiation, or contract signing. So again, selecting the progress column, opening data binding section, and I see that it is already some condition applied that currently progress section is available when cell stage not equal to lost. So what I will do, I will extend existing condition with extra logic. We'll apply one more stage, and let's see like in full how it will look. Okay, we have prospect, we see only details and progress. When we are on one orders, we see only details and one details. And when we are on lost, we see only details and lost details. And for signing and negotiation and capture, everything works as expected. And it is not all. Okay, we fixed like the details, but we have a button with different actions. All actions are applicable for opportunities, but not all actions you can do at any opportunity stage. For example, send lost report should be available when the sales stage is equal to lost. Mark as done, which currently changed the sales cycle to one orders, should be only available when there is contract signing stage. And retrieve contract action should be available only when there is stage one order. So let's do it as well. And let's start with action send lost report. So I'm selecting action send lost report, and we'll open data binding section again. I have some condition, so I will extend it with logic that it will be only presented when I have opportunity details opened and cell stage equal to lost. Okay. Next action mark as done. So this action should be only available when we have stage contract signing. So again, opening data binding section and extending wave directive to different conditions. Save. And last action, retrieve contract. Again, it should be only available when there is one order stage only. So we'll add the logic. And for this action, I would like that when I will click this action, I would like to call business service. And to do it, so I will add event click, and we'll enter some code how we can invoke business service. For business service, we will be called inbound email database operations. The method we will call will be find record. The input-output parameters will be retrieved from context variable test object, and I would like to put the output result, what will be returned by business service into context variable vs output. Okay, save. And as I just created a new context variable, I need to add it. So I'm opening context variable section and will add a new context variable where I will store my result. Now you can see that it is empty, so I'm not putting any information here. And now let's test everything what we did with our actions. Okay, so when we are in stage prospect, we see only one action send notification. When we are in one orders, we can see action retrieve contract and send notification. When we are in lost, so we see send lost report action and send notification. And when there is contract signing, we can see that mark as done and send notification. And even if I will click this action, which will change.
So you see it's Siebel, right? So
yes. So I clicked the action mark as done. We changed my sell cycle to one orders, and now you can see that action disappeared already. And now let's test how we can call the business service, our logic. So I will click on action retrieve contract, and Siebel answers to me contract information was successfully retrieved, fine. And now let's test was something returned. And you can see that currently our context variable vs output was populated with some information returned by business service, like first name, ID, last name, what we request.
Okay, great. Thanks, Natalia. Just to kind of recap what we saw, first we have the different building blocks from which we build the UI. So we call it local design system. It's not entirely your as a Siebel customer design system. So it's kind of a mix of internal components that we have, but then they are styled according to your corporate brand book. So overall, in the component library, we have about 30 different components from different complexity, like simple button to a table or to a Kanban board. They are all based on the open source libraries. And then, maybe some of the components like Kanban we built ourselves. And these components are extendable, meaning that on one hand, we can customize the look of this component and maybe add some properties so that we can control its look and feel and behavior. But also we can be adding a new ones. And then with the design tokens, we can define different color schema, fonts, typography, custom CSS, so that the Siebel UI looks very similar to your customer-facing applications and also other intranet application. Okay, for the data sources, primarily we work with Siebel. We leveraging Nexus Bridge to access presentation models. So on every applet, we would have a PM, and then through this PM, we get both of the data sets through which we can navigate, but also all the metadata about different list columns controls. So is it read-only or not? What is the type of it, lengths, and also if there are any LOVs, and we get LOVs as well. And for the other sources, currently we can get internal text files with the mock data to work in the sort of prototype environment when we don't have Siebel views defined yet. But during the fall, we plan to add also support for REST services in GraphQL. And then the way how we compose UI. So first, this CR application will consist of pages and fragments, like this account 360-degree view, which was a page, or Kanban board, which was a page. And then included different sections of fragments, which we can first customize and share between different pages. Then populated these pages and fragments with some elements. So we drag components from the library. And then in this configuration panel, we style them the way we want to. And then as the next step to get connection to actual Siebel data and to add some interactivity, we in the same panel do all the different mappings, configure the different events on click or mouse over, make sure that navigation between pages is working. And if we need to, we can go back to JavaScript code as well. As output, so basically whenever we do something with the page, when we add components or configure them, code is updated on the background. Kind of closed it, but we can show it as well if there will be questions regarding it. So technically, each view and page is Vue.js component template. And then together with this Nexus Face runtime module, it is deployed to the high environment. And basically that's how users would see the Nexus Face generated UI. So definitely they will not be able to change the logic or to add new columns or controls or components to the UI, but they will just have whatever we have configured in the low environments. So, and this is basically a recap of basic principles, like how this Nexus Face is organized. Okay, there are some questions. Kind of technically, Nexus Face is Vue.js applications, and it's also generate Vue.js components templates. We use Vue.js because it's very simple. Again, thinking about this low barrier to enter web development, Vue.js is much more approachable for Siebel developers compared to React or Angular. And we have like pretty good experience with that. So it's kind of one of the reasons we use it. So, and basically, as I mentioned before, so now we are entering this public preview phase, and it means that some of the customers can become early adopters of Nexus Face. And the plan we would have is such that, first we start with a small pilot project where we would take a look at one of the use cases that you have currently in Siebel. And then this whole pilot project would take 2-3 weeks to deliver with 2 or 3 people from Ideaport Riga joining. So as a first step, based on your UI design or Siebel use, we would do UI development using Nexus Face, either in your environment or externally. For that, we would use these mock text files, which would be sort of exported from Siebel so that we have some metadata information about your views and applets and properties of those. And then the second phase, we deploy this Nexus Face in your development environment, make sure it works with Siebel data. And then we do demonstration to the business stakeholders to show them, what we can achieve with Nexus Face, what kind of UX transformation and what time it takes to achieve it. Then we would move into the initial implementation with Ideaport Riga, because it is still preview phase. We want to have a control over it. We want to see what is working, what is not. At the same time, we are kind of continuously focusing on usability of this Nexus Face, so that now we are every now and then getting some people from Ideaport Riga with some Siebel experience, have them going through, basic JavaScript course and CSS course for a day or something, and then learn them to work with Nexus Face. And then we see how easy it is for them to get started, what parts of the application they are struggling with, where do they do a lot of clicks. We do sort of UX improvement of the Nexus Face itself, so that we get productivity of the developers on one hand, and also that the onboarding experience for the new users would be as smooth as possible as well, so that you wouldn't need to think hard like how to accomplish certain functionality. So, but that's why, for kind of initial implementation, still we want to do it ourselves for the clients. The idea is that we first we do proper UX work, and we use this kind of Nexus sprint methodology. You can find more on our site, so that we understand how the users are working within the system. We do some usability tests, understand current usability issues. Then we come up with the UI prototypes during the design phase or sprint, which will solve these issues and have customer look at it and approve it and iterate if needed. And then in the validation sprint, we, again, do the reviews with the users. We do a review of this functionality from the existing Siebel functionality side, so that we're not missing anything over there. And basically then at the end of this third sprint, which takes, each of the sprints takes 1 week, we get this functional design document, which is the basis for the developers to start their work. And then in the second phase of the iteration, we actually configure Siebel views. We do UI implementation using Nexus Face, test, deploy, and enable support team to work with Nexus Face also in the production environment and solve user issues with that. And then once we kind of done this, we want to have our customers with their current internal team or with their current system integrator to continue Siebel UI improvement using Nexus Face. So we will cover this, we will do the training of this team in the Nexus Face, but we're happy to explain how do we do this UX improvements as well. So then we will be available there for your support, and also if there are some on-demand consultations needed, we will be there for you as well. The idea is that this is not the tool we as a Siebel integrator are using on our own project. So we want to give it to internal customer teams, we want to give it to support teams, we want to give it to other kind of great integrators focusing on the UX, so that they run on their own. So because it's early adopters, again, we don't have anyone live in production yet. So there are certain risks involved, and it is not the smoothest tool ever yet. For the early adopters, we have the following offers: that we run this Nexus Face pilot free of charge. Then after that, you can make your decision, like if you want to continue the Siebel UX transformation using Face or not. But if you do, we also kind of qualified for 30% off of one of the Nexus Sprint iterations. You get free 2 days Nexus Face training for your team, internal team or integrator. It's kind of up to you. And then you have substantial subscription discount. So first 2 years, it's 70% off, and starting from the third year, it's 40% off. And there are a few criteria to be met. So we were looking for 5 customers. I think 2 we already found. So there's 3 more slots available. Again, we look to run these pilots before August 31st. So that we could provide you discount, you should sort of sign the subscription before October 31st. So it's kind of time limited. And yes, I think Artyom would tell me that we need to make sure that your Siebel is running on Chrome or Firefox or Edge. And if it's Internet Explorer 11, at this stage, we wouldn't start looking into that. So we don't like Internet Explorer 11. Basically, from these previous discussions or slides, you kind of understand this is a premium project. So, and the model we're offering it to the customers is subscription fee. For those who are joining with the Nexus Face during this year, so the fee is 1% of Salesforce sales or Service Enterprise Edition subscription fee. So if you look at Salesforce, it's 150 euros per user per month. Per year, it's 1,800, and 1% of it is 18 euros per user per year for Nexus Face. So basically, you can maintain all your existing Siebel business logic, all your configuration. If you want to, you can run it on premise. If you want to, with Nexus Face, we can make sure that Siebel UX is totally transformed so that it's great looking application. It is easy to use. For the new joiners, it takes no time to understand how to work with system. And the most importantly, it takes much less time for users to accomplish their tasks. And just like on the visual line, like 1% is this little green line, and the rest is like 99 percentages or lines to represent 1% against 99%. I think with that, our presentation time is over. So if you want to ask a question over a voice, please do that. You can always write an email to me to discuss more about Nexus Face, and either your company want to be one of these early adopters of Nexus Face. The recording is going to be available. Hopefully by the end of this week, we will process it and put it on the YouTube and basically send the links to all registered users. If you haven't been registered, but just got the link from the email or from your colleagues, also drop an email to me or leave the message on this Nexus Face site, and then I will get back to you with the recording. Okay, any statistical evidence of the performance impact it adds on the extra layer for calls? Artyom, do you want to speak maybe a little bit more or kind of answer the question via voice?
Regarding the performance impact, in fact, we don't do additional calls because whatever we see in the applet is available directly on the front end already. So maybe adding the application itself has a little performance impact, but comparing to the performance that is generated by the backend, it's like really, really small. But the calls itself are just standard calls that the Siebel Open UI does.
We can remove also a physical render layer of Siebel UI, so it's not loaded, and we just release some of the resources so that performance is overall better. Also, the way how we build it, technically, a lot of things are happening within the same Siebel view. So once we fetch the data, it is available for us in the front end or in the presentation models. And basically, when we switch from different pages within this Nexus Face UI, we are not making any calls to the Siebel backend. From that point of view, we're getting kind of performance improvements as well. Yes, applets should be developed in Siebel tools before we start working with Siebel, because from the architecture point of view, maybe Artyom, I can show your slides here, so that we see we have Siebel as a backend. This is like where Open UI starts with the proxy. Each of the applets have presentation model, and this is like how we actually access both configuration, but also the live Siebel data as well. And maybe I'll show it in the application as well.
Yeah, and basically answering the Ibrahim question, if we're turned off creating the controls to improve performance, basically there is a mode in Nexus Bridge that allows us to not to render the applets at all. So the applet functionality is still there. We can still call the methods to get the data and update that, but we save some time in most cases by not rendering the applets on the view.
And again, to understand this whole idea with how do we access Siebel. So here we have a Nexus account main view, Siebel. It has several applets in it. To shorten the name and also to have an impression that we're working with kind of a data entity, we give a name to that. And there are several Nexus Bridge enabled views in this current Siebel instance, so we see all of them. The green ones means that I'm actually now in this particular Siebel view, so that within this current screen, I have access to all of the data which is available in PMs, like in these 6 different presentation models. And then these are my 6 applet entities, if you will. Here are the data sets which were exposed in Siebel. And for every record, I see what kind of controls or list columns are there and what type they have. And if I click, for example, here, so I see first this list of value data as well, so that I can kind of automatically using it. Now, what is current value selected? What is the data type? If it's read-only or not, maximum size and stuff like that. And with that, with this metadata, we kind of leverage is that as we configure UI, so that we are already inheriting all the configuration you've done on the Siebel side. And let's say if there are some, for example, read-only properties that are set up on the Siebel business components, when they fire, this logic will apply also to this Nexus Face UI. So this is like kind of the benefits we are getting working through Nexus Bridge with the Siebel presentation models compared to scenario when we would build custom UI on the REST services, when we just have the data, but there is no metadata or logic on all of these fields. And then you have to build special classes on getting list of values. And if you have a hierarchical list of values, how do you make it work? So it's much more messy. But then here we work natively with an Open UI. It is Open UI application, and we just leveraging Vue.js as a framework, our kind of know-how of building this custom physical render so that you don't need to build those yourself, and then just get a fancy UI. And after user research and UI design, also easy to understand, easy to use, and efficient from the task completion point of view. Okay, then wrote good webinar. It means maybe that we have to start wrapping up. If you have been receiving emails from myself, we can use this channel to communicate it further. We will be sending recording at the end of this week. And if you are interested to become one of these early adopters of Nexus Face, please email, and we have these very special offers. And there are 3 more slots available. Thanks for your time, for participation and the questions. And enjoy the evening or the rest of your day if you are somewhere in Americas, either north or south. Goodbye.